especially one that most people don't know about. I assume, at least through the foundation, if not before, she's been able to meet other kids and other people that have the condition.
Yes, yeah. We actually, excuse me, when she was a lot younger, there was a family and they had two young boys, and one of their sons had it and one of their sons didn't. And they live quite far from us because again, it's so rare geographically. We're not really close to a lot of people that are in the same life stage as her that we know. So these kids were, but they were an hour and a half away, and so we would get together with them like once a year, and it was really interesting to see like that family dynamic. And then in Tom and her father's family, he's one of three, he's the middle child, and his older brother doesn't have it at all, and his younger sister has it as well. So it's the grandmother, Isabel's father, Isabel, and her aunt that all have it. So when Tom had his surgery, then they started looking at Beth Ann as well. They did the whole genetic study of the family. We're actually in medical journals, which is kind of interesting and neat. Um, but yeah, it's good for her to have that camaraderie and know people and kind of say, oh yeah, people make fun of me for this, and I ignore it. I step back to people. Everyone has their different personality and perspective, but it's good for her to see and interact with them.
And how has all of this affected you as her parent?
Oh, I definitely put her in a bubble. Having a child diagnosed with something like this that, you know, she's my firstborn daughter. So, and I think I'm kind of a nervous personality as it is. And so I really did, when she got fully diagnosed with it, I was like, okay, we have to learn everything about it. We have to make sure she doesn't do things that's going to exacerbate it or move this along quicker than it has to. So we just really were really involved. That was my perspective of kind of putting her in a bubble. Her father, who had he is clearly passed away, and her father was like, no, I want her to live a normal life. And I'm like, well, I want her to live a long one, and I want it to be as normal as possible, of course, but I want her to live a long life. So, I've definitely probably taken on more of a be careful type of a role than allowing her to kind of go out there and experience things at a risky level at all.
That's very interesting what you said, where he says, he wanted her to have a normal life, and you're like, you want her to have a long life. Where is the balance between those two?
That's a really good question. And really, what is normal? Who even knows?
I
But I think it's like anything else, everything within moderation. So can she go out and do like on Friday we went and did a hike, and I parked at the wrong trailhead, and we ended up at a really hard hike, and at one point we were like actually rock climbing, which neither one of us was prepared for. But she can go out and do those things. She just can't go out and do it every single day. She can't, she can't she can play recreational basketball, but she can't be on a competitive team where she's going to be sprinting up and down the court. So they do need to live life. They do need to exercise. They do need to, go out and have fun and be
right.
wild and do those kind of things. But she does have to take it with a different lens and really
She
say, what's the benefit of doing this? Like, is it benefiting me, or is this really going to possibly hinder me in a way?
right. She needs to play his own defense. Man to
Yes.
man's a little too strenuous.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, and it's like anything in life, she doesn't really know life any other way. So, it's really funny because my younger daughter does not have it, and we actually call her our boo boo baby because every time she does anything, she gets hurt. She'll get a concussion. She broke her arm. She needed surgery, and it's funny because Isabel was put into such a bubble her whole life. She's like, her younger sister's like, "Have you ever broken a bone? Have you ever needed surgery?" And we're like, "No, because I put her in a bubble. Like, if I could have wrapped her in plastic wrap, I would, or bubble tape or whatever it is. I totally would have done it because it's scary. It definitely has produced anxiety, probably to a greater extent than we would have liked, but it's definitely a different perspective growing up like that.
Right, but once you understand what you can and can't do, it does become almost second nature. I've spoken to a number of people who have various medical conditions, disabilities, and especially those who are diagnosed early in life.
Hmm.
They don't really think about it the same way the rest of us do. It's really, well, this is just their life.
Right, right. Everything has your own perspective. And I think she wouldn't be as nervous and those type of things had her father not passed away so young. And it was due to a complication to the synthetic valve in his heart. So that definitely added a different layer to it. So if he was still living his best life and in moderation and definitely a different way than he wanted to, but he played varsity sports. He went into the Air Force. And so he did a lot of things to his body that really exacerbated what his body could handle because he wasn't diagnosed until after having open heart surgery. His mom, they just thought she had mitral valve prolapse in her heart. And so she was monitored from like in her early 40s, but she never did anything that pushed her heart to the certain limit. So again, it didn't even come out in the family until Tom was diagnosed by this nurse in the ICU post surgery. So he kind of pushed himself, and people that push themselves to those extents with this disorder, it definitely can change the trajectory of your life.
Right, and because it is so rare, it is very often misdiagnosed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your husband. I mean, losing a loved one is never easy. When a child loses a father relatively young, um, and I've talked about this on other podcasts, my father passed away when I was 11.
Hmm.
The trauma does affect you.
It absolutely does.
How have you guys dealt with that trauma and the fact that knowing that the same condition that killed him, your daughter has?
It's a lot. I'm not going to lie, both Isabel and I definitely have anxiety. And, we went through a lot of therapy. And, therapy when someone's 5 years old is very different than therapy that you or I would go to
Yeah.
today. It's art therapy, and you're drawing through your feelings and things of that nature. When he passed away, we went to a support group. It's a very great support group. It's called Mary's Place. It's in Windsor, Connecticut. They help families that have lost people. And it's, I don't think without going there that we would have really gotten through it as well, because there is, it's not like misery loves company, but there's a lot to be said for having people that have gone through the same thing or a very similar thing that you've gone through. And it's really nice to not feel alone. So, humans, we all need that companionship and all of that kind of stuff. And I think in our household, we just really were an open dialogue. It's okay to cry today. It's okay to be angry today. And I think just going through all of those different things. And, I don't think it was until she was about 10 years old that she really connected the dots that what she goes to the cardiologist for is what daddy died from. So, we didn't really kind of focus on that. You have to go to the cardiologist because you have this syndrome. We have to monitor you. But it wasn't until she really started looking into Marfan syndrome, like on the internet, because I didn't want to give her that added level of worry, because it's hard enough growing up. Never mind
Sure.
growing up like this and then adding all those different layers and dimensions into it. But we've just throughout the years we've just tried to stay positive. She is 16 years old, but she is one of the wisest and strongest people I know. Honestly, I look up to her. She is extremely well rounded. She's extremely well spoken. I wish she could have come onto the podcast with us. And, I think like with anyone that has something that's a little bit out of the norm for society, you all create different ways. She's also, like I tell her all the time, she could be a stand-up comedian because she does kind of use like humor to deflect and those kind of things. But it no doubt it absolutely shaped her as a person. And she will. go through her whole life with this, and she carries it really well, which is good, but it's also a little sad to say. But it's, again, if you're, born with anything that you have to kind of alter your life, it honestly, I think it just makes you stronger.
That's a great way to look at it. And, as we're talking, yes, you've had all of this stuff going on, but it hasn't stopped either one of you. She's going to school. You said she's not here because she had a shift at work. So she's doing normal things. You're, a successful businesswoman. You've, moved on with your life, looking at positive things. So you've been able to take all of these things that are going on and not let them crush you.
Absolutely. There's in anyone's life, there's going to be really huge things that happen, and I think that, what really determines someone's character is how they deal with those type of life events. Dealing with like a silly argument in the house or at work or at school, that's just run of the mill stuff, but it's really about how you can deal with these giant things that life throws at you, and Isabel, honestly, she's had a lot more thrown at her than that, and it's made her into a very, very strong and intelligent person, and she can really hold her own in pretty much any kind of crowd. And so, while it is super sad, and she certainly wishes her dad was here, I think she kind of accepted that this is her life, and this is the journey that she's on, that she doesn't have a dad. It's so funny because she just turned 16, so we recently bought her a car, and I don't know anything about cars, and I bought all of my cars through a dealer that come with a warranty and all of that kind of stuff. But she's 16 and a brand new driver, so we didn't get her a car like that. We got her, a junker,
Right.
and so she's already, she's already had some experiences in that car. But she one of my good friends, her husband helped me go car shopping with Isabel for this car, and he was a godsend. And him and another one of the dads in our life kind of have become like her pseudo dad. And so, it's like, everybody says it takes a village. It really does take a village to raise a kid, but to raise a kid that doesn't have her father here with her, it really takes a village. And we are super blessed that we really have a great support system.
That really is fantastic. And, we're coming up on the end of our time. So if somebody wants to find out more about the Marfan Foundation, how can they do so?
Just go on to Google, and it's www.marfanfoundation.org. It's a very good nonprofit that is super responsive, and they are really, really good about helping families in the right way.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here this week. We've really enjoyed having you.
I
And I,
appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
I think for me, the big takeaway for this episode is really about overcoming adversity and how you never know what someone else is going through or how they're dealing with it, and it really
Absolutely.
is important for everybody to keep that in mind.
Absolutely. Always be kind. You never know what people are going through.
Exactly. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.